Final score, Wrexham 1, Oxford United 0, and I've got to be honest, feel too concerned by not having won a home league game yet, because I felt the performances were better than that made us appear. But it's still nice to get it out the way, isn't it? And surprisingly, it is the longest we've ever had to wait in our history for a home league win. Although we have had a couple of good League Cup wins to tide us over and maybe reflect the reality a little bit more. Anyway, after losing at Stoke on Saturday, we made 4 changes. Liberato Cacace coming in on the left for Ryan Longman. Ben Sheaf had taken a knock in training and so he wasn't available. Matty James came in his place. Lewis O'Brien and Josh Windass dropping out as well. George Thomason getting his first league start of the season. And Nathan Broadhead, who, like Cacace, had really impressed off the bench at Stoke, coming in as well. I think both those players' starts were pretty inevitable. Ollie Rathbone not on the bench, having picked up a knock himself. And we started off really, really quickly. The obvious cunning ploy of cutting off all the power to Stoke's changing room pre-match had an effect. Admittedly, the lights went off as well, and for a moment you wondered if the game's going to get called off, but no. Those lights are fancy schmancy, and a mere power cut isn't going to stop them. And we started off really brightly, and it was a sign of what was really to come throughout the first half, in which we looked very impressive and fluent going forwards, and in which Cacace would play a major role. Matty James as well, a real quarterback performance in the first half by him. Put a great long ball up towards Moore, who was able to flick it on comfortably. Broadhead helping her on to Cacace, bursting down the left. So often he was left open by the switch. They were bursting down the left-hand side. On this occasion, he cuts inside, maybe just carries it a little bit too far, but still gets a shot off from a tight angle, which draws the first of a number of saves from the Oxford keeper Cumming, who had an excellent match. Wrexham continued to be on the front foot and really dominated massively, especially the first 15 or so minutes. It was all one-way traffic. We nearly got a peculiar opener after Brannigan overhit a back pass and Jamie Cumming had no option but to dive to his left and save it. Otherwise, Brannigan would have scored an own goal from midfield. The problem with that, of course, these indirect free kicks you get in the penalty area, you rarely score from them because every single player is in the box and it's just too crowded, and that's what happened. Moore gave a little touch, Cacace blasted it in, but the wall charged and got the block in. Moore managed to get to the follow-up from a tighter angle and hit a shot in on target, but again, so many bodies in the way, it just got blocked again and ricocheted clear. However, we kept going. A minute before the goal, we threatened Dobson with a really nice diagonal again for Moore, who knocked it down, and Cummings was really quick off his line. Just by a fraction beat Broadhead to the ball and saved at his feet. It was very, very close indeed. But Broadhead would not be denied, and a minute later he got the opener, and it was a really nicely worked set piece, this. Matty James pinging in a corner beyond the far post. Doyle made the first move, peeling off. However, that was distracting. I don't know, but then Moore made a similar run moments later, peeling off beyond the far post. He looked to volley it home, mishit it, but it dropped for Broadhead, and a proper goal scorer's instinct. He prodded it towards goal. Cummings did really well, got his hands to it, couldn't quite prevent it from going in though. Wrexham had to appeal, plus the referee's wearable technology said it across the line, and Wrexham were ahead, and deservedly so. Oxford's only real threat in the first half came about 10 minutes later. Brannigan with a nice diagonal out to the right. Great first touch by Stanley Mills, who scored their winner on Saturday against Derby. And having cut inside onto his left foot, he has a terrific 20-yard curling shot heading inside the far post, bottom corner. Great save by Okonkwo, got down sharply. It bounced just in front of him and spat up nasty with all the spin on it. But Okonkwo really kept his eyes on it well and pushed the ball away to safety. And within a minute, Wrexham were after a second. It came from an Oxford corner, this, which was half cleared, and Broadhead did really well to inconvenience the defenders and help it on. Dobson was fouled, but the referee played a good advantage. Broadhead picking up the loose ball and looking to play a killer pass, sending Kabore away, just overhit it. and Cummings was able to come out of the box and claim it as Kabore. It's quite good. You look back at it, his pace is quite scary as you watch him herring after it. Just a little bit too much on the pass still. Within a minute, another opportunity. This time it's Broadhead linking up with James, and he fed it on to Thomason on the left channel, drove in a powerful shot, which was well blocked once more. Then Kabore swept it across with beautiful shape on it. Maybe just curved a tiny bit behind Moore, who got a firm header, but he's stretching for it, and from 10 yards out he couldn't direct it underneath the bar. In the last 5 minutes of the half, Wrexham just upped the tempo again and started making more chances. Okonkwo with a big kick. His kicking was really impressive when he was going for distance. Flicked on beautifully by Moore, and Broadhead looked like he was going to go one-on-one. He got goal side of Vokes, who was dropping off between the two centre-backs. But Vokes just managed to stretch backwards and head the ball. Just got a touch of the ball, which knocked it onto Broadhead's back. And that made it spin up, and it just wouldn't sit down for him. And Vokes, by this point, of course, is all over Broadhead's back. And so he just couldn't get the ball down properly to get the shot off. So unfortunate that. And again, within a minute, Wrexham causing problems. Dobson winning the ball well. Broadhead then with a glorious piece of skill, back to goal 35 yards out, two defenders on him, little drag back, and he'd left them both trailing in his wake. He fed the ball to Dobson, who had to go a bit wide to receive it, but used that to hold on to it intelligently in time and weigh a path perfectly for Cleworth, who made a run down the inside channel. And Cleworth did the right thing. He just punched it across the face of goal. Frustratingly for Wrexham, nobody gambled on it. We had three players just outside the 6-yard box. None of them attacked the 6-yard box because it was a perfect ball for somebody to just attack the 6-yard box and tap it in. But nobody made that run. And then in the second of two added minutes, another moment for Wrexham, a free kick in midfield. Thomason standing the ball up into the area, and Doyle on the sprint did well to get there. It wasn't the kindest angle, but it's a chance, and he makes good contact trying to get it back across the keeper, but not quite back across him enough, and Cummings was able to hold on to the ball. Oxford changed their shape in the second half, and the game changed as well. They went to three at the back. Vokes permanently now setting between Herrick and Brown, and they looked a different proposition. They weren't really making chances much, but they were now holding us at arm's length, and that lovely fluency that we had in the first half was gone. However, it was replaced by a lot of grit. I thought that Wrexham in the second half, we were very professional in making sure we got it over the line, didn't rush things when we restarted, and kept our shape really well. So a different feel to the game. Nothing really happened in the first half of the second half. Windass came on after an hour for Broadhead, who had looked very sharp but wasn't getting into the game as much in the second half, and obviously Josh Windass, a player with great influence who could be useful in that situation. But then came the moment that really made us look like we might drop points, because Oxford hadn't made any chances at all really up until the 67th minute, apart from that shot I mentioned in the first half. But then Wrexham were reduced to 10 players. Callum Doyle sent off. Siriki Dembele, as a result of the change of shape, was playing in behind two strikers, and he was consistently finding space between the lines, and that was the one area that I thought maybe looked promising for Oxford. On this occasion, he receives it, a lovely little flick inside to him. He's got space, and I think Doyle, who has recognised that Dembele popping into these sort of situations is a real threat, decides he's got to try and commit and get there first. He doesn't get there first, and he clears out Dembele. I gotta say, I've got no complaints about the red as such. Looking at the replay, it's not quite as bad as I thought. He's certainly late, and Doyle doesn't complain, and he does go across to check on Dembele's well-being. But yeah, it could have been a very stern yellow. Oxford certainly reacted quickly. They wanted the red. I'd want Wrexham players to do the same if they saw that challenge. It was wild. He sprinted in, so it looked bad. Or he hit him. Looked like it hit him quite hard. I'm not sure he did hit him quite as hard as it seemed. I'm not trying to say Dembele was acting, by the way. because he looked very shocked when he got up and then got subbed, which was sort of peculiar. Not least because I thought he, as I said, was very dangerous in the second half. Anyway, after a couple of minutes sorting out all the paperwork and admin from a red card and the treatment of Dembele, the free kick was whipped in by Brannigan. Great ball in. And Lancashire, who's come on shortly beforehand, and Wrexham tried to sign recently, maybe should have scored. A header about 8 yards out. He sprinted onto it with pace and just lacked a bit of control and hit the header, which flicked off the top of the bar. And as a result, we got away with it. Brunt by this point now had come on to replace Thomason, so that we had the full complement at the back. Moore was playing on his own up front with Windass trying to support him. And although Oxford naturally from now on dominated possession and spent a lot of time in our half, they actually didn't create all that many chances, and Wrexham did. With a quarter of an hour to go, Windass with a great through ball through the middle nearly sent Kiefer Moore one-on-one with the keeper. Superb recovering tackle by Vokes, who sprinted back and at full stretch managed to hook his foot around the ball and get it away. And Wrexham, got to the 85th minute without really looking in too much trouble. We then made a triple substitution to look to shore things up. I mean, Moore had done really well, but we asked him to put a lot of miles in. So he came off and Sam Smith came on. And also we changed our wing backs up. Ryan Longman coming on for Kakache. And interestingly, Kabore coming off and Dan Scarr coming on, which meant that Max Cleworth went across as a right-sided wing-back. Oxford had a couple of moments. Brannigan with an optimistic shot from a long way out, which was blocked, but span up in the air. Brunt scrapping away, managed to win his header. And, well, Oxford shouting for a penalty, saying that he was grabbing hold of his man. As the ball dropped loose, Brannigan ran into the box. James swung his foot at it, and quite a high foot. And as the ball bounced off Brannigan and went behind, Brannigan hit the deck, and Oxford had a big shout again for a penalty. Having looked back at them, I don't think so. I mean, Brunt does use his hands. He lets his man get goal side of him. But I'd be a little angry with the referee, Elliot Bell, who gave Kiefer Moore nothing if he'd then given that, because he was being manhandled, Moore was, and I don't recall him getting any free kicks. So if he'd then judged that to be a foul, I think there would have been a real inconsistency. So I don't think he could give that. The second one, and Mark Howard, I think, in commentary with us, is quite right to point out, may well have been influenced by something that happened a minute or so earlier, because Cameron Brannigan had the ball on the left flank, cut inside, went past Dobson, went down. Ref gives a free kick and books Dobson. Didn't look like... I mean, Dobson just didn't seem to make any attempt to play the man. It looked like a real dive. And I wonder if the ref realised he'd made a mistake. And so with this one, and when you look at it again, Brannigan sees James going to swing his foot, and he doesn't really go for the ball as such. In which case, if there was contact, I would say penalty. Instead, he turns his back on the ball and just sort of jumps back first, hoping that James will just swing and kick him and he can go down. So I think the ref did very well with those two. Mind you, I would say that, wouldn't I? Oh, by the way, that Brannigan free kick, when it was played in, took a deflection off Kabore, and Windass bizarrely from 15 yards out looked like he was trying to score with a diving header, dived towards his own goal and put a header just over the bar. It was a slightly scary moment. But we didn't have all that many more scary moments. And in fact, throughout the 6 added minutes, not only did we keep Oxford comfortably at bay, but we could have scored. Smith comes on and instantly is a goal threat. He's battling away with the centre-backs. He's had a good match. And the last minute of the 90, he nearly scored what would have been an absolute top goal. Cleworth, as a wing-back, deciding he might as well enjoy himself, backs into his man and in Carl Connolly style flips it back over his own shoulder and over his marker and spins and gets around the other side. He then punches a lovely square ball into the D, where Windass just, he's got lovely technique, Windass, just sets Smith perfectly, just jabs the ball back the direction it came from, perfect weight, perfect placement for Smith to get onto and hit first time with his left foot. I mean, it's a nightmare for defenders and goalkeepers. The ball whizzing really quickly from the flank to the middle of the pitch, and then first touch, bang, another yard and a half out to the right. The keeper's having to go this way and that. And then Smith hits it first time, and it's a sweet strike using the defender who's closest to block the keeper's view and curve it around him inside the far post. And Cummings makes the most magnificent of saves, diving to his right. He's got to see it late. It's quite low as well. It's a horrible, horrible shot to deal with, and somehow he manages to dive down underneath it with his top hand, get enough contact and knock it onto the bar behind for a corner. It's a brilliant save. It could have been goal of the season. As it is, it's definitely one of the saves of the season that we're going to see in this campaign. And then from the corner, Smith nearly scores again. Windass stands the ball in. Smith gets it well, 8 yards out, heads it on target, and again Cummings is sharp and able to get his body down and parry it and grab it at the second attempt. And the final whistle goes. We've got our 3 points. Fantastic for us, and yeah, we can now go into those 2 tough games against the top 2, knowing that we've put a bit more distance between us and where we don't want to be, and can be confident as we go on and take those matches on. Plus, of course, a little matter of a League Cup last 16 time. So that's it. Great result for Wrexham with the final score of Wrexham 1, Oxford United 0. I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.